Hello, hello. Hey guys, welcome. Thank you guys for joining me today on this Thursday. I'm excited about what we're going to go over today. If you guys have attended one of these in the past, great. Glad you're back on the webinar. If you haven't, the way that this format works is we go over the updates that have been released over the past month. And then we discuss some of the future updates that we're going to be working on or we've been working on. And during the entire process, we are open to Q&A. So we'd like you to put your questions into the Q&A and we'll periodically go through those. And hopefully you'll be able to get heard. And if there's certain things that have been you've been waiting for, you've been looking forward to, definitely let us know that you're interested in whatever it is that that you're looking for. So without further ado, let's jump in and talk about some of the things that have just come out or we're also working on. So the release overall was a little bit smaller this month. And so we're going to go through all of those right here. The first thing that I do want to highlight is specific to Restoration One franchisees. Some of you guys are on the beta program. Some of you guys are not, but I'd like to go over the functionality just so when you guys see it, you're aware of the way it's working. It is something that has been built out so far. So we're going to go into this right here, which is really the ability to accept national account jobs through Xcelerate. I'm going to show you what that looks like. I've got a couple environments pulled up here. So this environment here is actually the corporate environment where they're creating jobs and dispatching them to different franchisees. You would end up being show up here in the ranking of their system. And if you own the territory, then you're going to be ranked at the top. They're going to dispatch that job to you. And what I'd like to highlight is not only so when I click on assign here, not only the screen that I can accept it on the web, but I also get notified and how that works. So here in this environment is where I'm going to be getting notified. You'll see there's an opportunities button there. And then on the mobile, there's also an opportunities button. And so you can see all of these jobs we've accepted and they turn into files just like all the other files that may exist on your system, but it does create an encircle with it. And so you can start putting stuff directly into encircle and it'll be pushed back to the national account team in the corporate side. So what I'm going to do is right before I click assign here, that's what I'm going to do on the back screen, but I'd like to share my screen on mobile here so that you guys can see what it looks like on the mobile. And what I'll do is I'll stop my share here. I'm going to share my screen right here. I'm going to turn off that. It looks like we can see my screen. So this is the mobile app. You'll see that there's the new opportunities button on the bottom right. If you're not seeing this, that would probably be because you're not part of the beta group, but we can discuss that in just a little bit. So I'm going to, on that screen that we were looking at, I'm going to assign the job here, and it's going to be assigned to franchisee one. So as soon as I click it, you see there's a push notification that pops up right here. I got a text message that says that I was assigned. And also I got a phone call, which I'm not seeing right here, but in general, we will be getting a phone call that's made by by basically an auto attendant. So it's not something that you necessarily are going to have a conversation with, but it basically gives you the same information that you're seeing right here. So now if I click on the push notification like this, or if I click on the opportunities right here, you'll see all the opportunities that I have available to me. So it's the same list that we saw on the web, but the gray ones have already been accepted. The red ones I've actually rejected. So there's some red ones there. And on this top one, I'm going to click on that and click accept. So that's really what you'd have to do to accept the job. And as soon as I do that, then the job will be available. I'll have an encircle created and it'll look just like any of the other jobs that are inside of Xcelerate. So that's really the process from a franchisee point of view. And if we're going to, so you can see the encircle's already created. We have all of the information, you know, the way that job would look any other situation, but that got pushed from the corporate side. Now they have the access there. A couple other things I'd like to talk about regarding regarding the dispatch notifications, so you guys are clear on how that works, because I think this is going to be very important if you are not getting those notifications. Go into the admin screen, go into the user creation screen. In this case, I'm going to edit my user. What you're going to look for is this opportunity notifications check mark. You will want to put the phone number in the mobile right here. You'll see the plus right there. If this is in, and also the email address there, this is where you're going to get the notifications. This mobile number, this email address, and if this is checked. So you can really go into any user and confirm that they will or will not get those notifications based on these two fields and whether it's checked. Hopefully that makes sense on that. If I click on the opportunities here, you'll see that I can no longer accept it. I already did. And so it will be in here just like any of my other jobs. I can go in and do the work that I need to do on that particular job. So that's something that we have been working on diligently for a while. We're now in beta on it. There's still maybe some kinks we're working out through it, but the plan is to roll that out on a larger scale in the short term, maybe the next coming months. So I'll look forward to that. And so the first thing I'm going to discuss here is an ability to merge two files into one. You guys may not have asked for this particular functionality. A lot of people who are having jobs automatically created from different sources, they end up wanting to merge files. And so really what happens is if I open up any file like this one, you'll see there's the merge file functionality. I can take the file that exists and select another file. And when I merge these together, the notes, the documents, the photos, the time tracking, they all get merged into one. So in any instance where maybe there was a duplicate created and some of your technicians may have been putting stuff into the wrong file, this can kind of fix that problem. So definitely give us your feedback on how that's working if you guys run into that situation. Next up here, map view hyperlink. So we discussed that we're going to be rolling out a new map view, and we're going to talk more about that. But the first step of it was something very simple, and we just added a hyperlink here inside of the job file. If you click on it, it will at least give you a dot on the map where that job is. So that's something that that you're able to do now and be able to see and locate where those jobs are by clicking on that map. It's very, very simple, but it does allow you to kind of visualize where that job's located. We've added the balance owing on the file list and in reports. So what that looks like here is some of you guys were calculating it in your head, but here's balance owing, where is it? It's all the way on the right there. But basically it takes takes whatever has been invoiced and all of the collections and gives you a open balance amount. So that's something that we've added in. Let me pull up the actual demo site where there's a little bit more financial information in there for you. And this is also available in the reporting section. So if you're wanting to look at your reports and you want to see that balance owing, you can do it here. But now I can see, okay, there's $1,500. If I were to filter down to all my jobs and receivables and look at, okay, what are the balance owing? Anything that's a zero, maybe I could close it out or whatnot. But that's something that you now have access to. You don't have to calculate that in your head. This one's pretty simple, pretty small, but we've added the last login date and time under the user screen. So if I go in here, you can see when did the user last log in. So if you maybe hired a new person and wanted to see whether or not they logged in or not, that timestamp and date is in there. And then the notes from Xcelerate Mobile are now syncing to Encircle. When we released the Encircle notes, originally it was just actually web that was syncing back and forth. So now it's any notes, wherever you're creating them, they're able to go into Encircle. And the Encircle notes are also coming back over to Xcelerate. So that two-way sync is really up and running regardless of where you're putting those notes. There were also a considerable amount of bug fixes we had to do regarding the scheduler. When we launched it last month, there was the new scheduler. Let me be clear on that. The new scheduler, there was quite a few different things that needed to be stabilized. So we did that, but we definitely still would love to hear more feedback on that new scheduler and whether or not you guys are using it and what your thoughts are on it. One update we also did for the old scheduler, which some of you guys are still using, is the description, which would exist now because of the new appointments. You can now type directly into the description. And if you do pull up the mobile app and you look at that appointment that was made, there's that view description button. They can now view the description. So you can essentially give instructions to your technicians here. Very similarly to what would happen if you were creating an appointment in here and you were putting a description there, but you can do it directly from this file list. Some other bug fixes that we've gotten, there were some QuickBooks Online transaction dates that were updating when the transaction was updated. So then the date got changed. That's been fixed. There was a referred source bug where it would end up being blank even though you put a referred by in. The root cause of that has been fixed. We also are going to go back in and correct everybody's records tomorrow. So if you're looking at your referred by and noticing that there's some blanks in there that shouldn't be there, that's going to be all fixed tomorrow. And then we have the ability to select multiple email addresses. There was a bug there where you couldn't select multiple email addresses when you were emailing from mobile, but that's been corrected. And there was also a report where duplicate time records were being created in time tracking. That's also been corrected. So we'd love to hear your feedback on that. And then we also added the customer name to the task list. So if you pull up your tasks from here, you now would be able to see the customer name as well as the job number and all of that. Let me take a look and see if I've got any questions from anybody. Nothing so far. So overall, as a release, a little bit smaller, but we have been pretty hard at work at some of the things that I'd like to share with you guys. Some of the things are shorter term, so likely will be released in the next 3 weeks. So let's talk about those first. First thing is that Encircle, so we're changing the way that Encircle is associated to Xcelerate, and before it was associated to a file, we're now associating it to the master job. That should be getting released here very shortly. And so now when you create one Encircle, it can link to all the files and they can be associated properly. You don't have to worry about creating duplicate Encircles unnecessarily. Another thing is Encircle released an update to their APIs that allow us to get information whenever they make a change to the claim. So if they're making changes to the, if let's say you got a typo on the phone number or you change the address, we can now go in and have that automatically copied over to Xcelerate. So that's something that's been updated. Just recently, last week, we're going to roll it out here into Xcelerate as soon as we can. We have 3 albums in Xcelerate. They're kind of the standard albums that national accounts are looking for, but those are going to be getting copied over to Encircle as well. For the mobile, the ability to zoom into photos, we've had that kind of done, but we didn't quite make the release window. You guys had asked for that, so that should be done in the next coming weeks. And then we're finishing up on the color coding on the scheduler, so you can see when people have clocked out, when they've clocked into a job, when they've left the job. So from that kind of scheduler view, you can see all of that information at a glance. Got a question from Christian. Is there a way to move columns from the column drop down when in files rather than dragging the columns, which is time consuming? Is there a way to move columns from the column drop down? I'm assuming we're talking about the file list. Let me just pull it up here to confirm. Are we talking about right in here when you're clicking up on the far right? So right now there is not. What I found to be the easiest is I would actually disable all of them and then bring in the ones that I want, because most of the time you're not going to be able to look at all of them, and having all of them in the view becomes cumbersome, and that's kind of the whole scrolling and trying to find what it is. So for me personally, I would go in and deselect them all and then pick the ones that are important to me And since I'm managing maybe now a list of 10 or 15, it becomes a lot easier. And this does save. So every time you come back in, it's going to be saved. Even the order of it will be saved. But yes, if you are trying to set up your view for the first time, it can take a little bit of time, and you can't just like drag and drop the order from over here, unfortunately. But that is a good enhancement to something we could look into. I've noticed that over the past webinar, it seems everyone goes to the chat. Are you guys able to go to the question and answer, or is it easier to go to the chat instead? Because I think almost every single question last time we did it was in the chat. And prior to that, everybody went into the questions and answers. So I just don't really know what has changed. But it doesn't matter. We can always get to whatever questions you guys have in either place, but just kind of checking to see why that is the case. So I don't see any other questions right now. I'd like to move forward here with some of the things that, some of the bigger things that we've been looking at that you guys have brought up and show you guys what they kind of look like today and then get your feedback on it. So one of the first things that we're looking at is in regards to the scheduler. Right now we've got a scheduler, and that allows us to, schedule from a centralized place, but we're not really able to see anything about the schedule from a job point of view. And that's a pretty big weakness from the schedule right now. So we're trying to envision how that will kind of tie together and give you everything you need. And one of the big problems with that is if all I get to see is the appointments for that particular job, but then I can't see availability of everybody else, then I might not be able to schedule. So it might be a situation where you're just looking, you can't necessarily take action. And if you take action, you go back to the scheduler. Not exactly sure how that would work, but some options of a kind of visualization. So we have our schedule here. We click on the schedule, it pulls up the schedule. Okay, that's one option, is you just pull up the schedule. I don't think that's necessarily how we're going to do it. Basically mirror everything that we've already seen in the scheduler view. What we're kind of envisioning is something like this, where it's drilled down to the particular job, and you have all of the functionality to look at the day, the week, the work week, the month, but every appointment is tied just to this job. And so you're kind of seeing, okay, when were we scheduled to go to this job? And it's just drilled down to the job. And then if I want to take action, I can schedule, so I can basically create an appointment here, but I'm really not, it's not very easy to see whether or not that person's even available, because it's looking at the job functionality, looking at the job availability, not necessarily the employee availability. So I think we would hyperlink it to the main scheduler in that way. This is kind of what we're looking at. Definitely would love to hear you guys' thoughts if you have any. If that would work, thumbs up. If you are concerned about it, thumbs down. This is, you'd be able to switch back and forth. So here we're looking at, a week view. Here we're looking at a month, or that's a week view too. But you'd be able to switch it up. You'd be able to see month, year, whatever it might be. So Christian, is there a way or a plan to implement the ability to send work orders or POs within the system at some point? That's a very good question. I think regarding work orders, it's very broad. People have all sorts of different ways of identifying what a work order is, what goes inside of it. One of the big requests that we've gotten from not necessarily Restoration Ones, but a lot of our prospects who are not using Xcelerate today, is that they want to have work orders that are generated from Xactimate. So you go into Xactimate, you upload your Xactimate, all the line items are summarized into different categories. Those can go into work orders. You can then send those to your subcontractors. You can send those to your employees, whatever it might be, and they know exactly what the scope of work is to do. We've definitely thought a lot about that. We've scoped out how to do that. We have a pretty good plan on a tack for that. At this point, it's just not something that we prioritize, but we are in conversations with your guys' head office. We're always in conversations with you guys, the franchisees. If enough of you guys all want that, if that's, which to this point, we haven't heard that that's what you guys want, then we can prioritize that and make that a reality. But so far, a lot of the things that people have asked for, especially you guys, the franchisees, haven't really gone into the work orders or purchase orders arena yet. And Chris, you're new to the program. For the smaller owner operator types that usually are out of the office and only have their phone and mobile, what is the best way to add a new master file from a mobile setting? How much of a new master file creation has to be done through an actual PC? So Chris, you can create a new job through the mobile app. So that can be done. There's most of the same functionality that's available on the web is available on the mobile. If you open up the menu on the far left, it'll slide out. It should say new master job. But we can talk about that if there's maybe issues with that, and if you have any struggles with creating a job on mobile. Also, photos taken in Encircle that are integrated with Xcelerate. When you click on pictures, click on the Encircle album. That should bring in all the Encircle photos. If you don't click on the Encircle album, it's going to by default look at the Xcelerate photos inside of the mobile app. So right here, looking at this screen, this is kind of an example of maybe a way to bring the schedule to the files. So definitely wanted to show you guys that. Another thing is we've talked about the map and where the map will go. One proposed place is on the dashboard, so we can kind of see all of our jobs from the dashboard view. You know, this is a mock-up. It's not necessarily going to look like that, but you'd be able to, as soon as you open up your dashboard, you'd see where those jobs are kind of residing. And then also something like this, where you have your by file, you have your by employee or whatnot, you have your different scheduling views, and then there's the map view, and you're able to kind of schedule and do things from this map view as well. So wanted to show you guys, is this how you envision looking at the map and where you'd be able to see all of your jobs, or are there other places where you'd like to see that? Some other things that we've worked on, you guys have asked for permission changes. So maybe some additional permissions, ways to lock down certain parts of the system, as well as integrations from a user perspective. And so this is kind of showing where we're headed in regards to that. So now when we're clicking on an edit or create on a user, you'll see that there's some additional tabs up there. When you click on those additional tabs, you're going to have permission breakdowns. So web and mobile permission breakdowns, and you can check and say, okay, this employee can get access to this, they can't get access to that. One of the examples that people were asking for was basically approving time. So that would be an example here. We could select whether they're that time tracking approver who has more limited access on certain visibilities. But this could really open things up for dialing in your permission set. So this is something we're working on right now. And also then integration. So when we talked about how are we going to integrate with Google, well, we feel the best way to do that is for a per user. So you take your user account and you tie it to Google or an Office, and then because of that, you're going to have emails, you're going to have calendar, and you can basically sync those particular things. And it's tied to the user, then you can delete that connection and tie it to another one. And as we expand to different connections, we can do that. It would be different than the way we've done integration so far, which is tied to the kind of the system as a whole. So definitely give us your thoughts on how this looks, whether this would be kind of the way you're envisioning the integration or not, because I know this was basically the number one request from you guys from the past couple months was an integration with the Gmail or Office. So this is kind of the direction we're headed on that, but we'd like to hear that you guys confirm this is kind of the right way. Looking through, we've got Chris. I did click on the Encircle photos and just showed the number of pics and name of room, but the pics themselves didn't show up. Okay, well, I will say, Chris, we can definitely look into that. I know over the past week, Encircle has had some delays in their in syncing data back to their different partners. And so in some instances, we did actually have to wait multiple hours before we got notes and photos last week. I don't know if that's still occurring. It's possible that might be the case if you took the photos recently. But yeah, we're looking into the delay if there is a delay on that. But Chris, we can speak about this afterwards and take a look and see if there's something else going on. And Christian, is there a tutorial or training on using the scheduler? I believe so. And if not, we can definitely do a particular training to cover any questions you have. So I'll make sure that we reach out to you and get you the information you need. And so Travis, you're saying you'd like to see the integration with Google, specifically the calendar feature. Well, the way that we would be envisioning it is kind of looking at, if we go back a couple slides here, we have this calendar right here. So you would have your own personal calendar in Xcelerate, and that sync is going to basically pull all those appointments and bring them right here. If you create appointments in here, they'll go back to your Google Calendar. If you create appointments in Google, they'll come back here. Now, the big benefit is that you have the job information here. You don't have job information in Google, so you can put the job information into the appointment here, and then it'll be available in your Google Calendar. That's really the thought. If you're editing things in Google, then it can edit back to here. It's really a two-way sync. That's kind of the thought there. And a lot of you guys use the Google calendars and Office calendars, so that's why that's there. If you have technicians who don't, which a lot of technicians are not going to necessarily have their own calendar, that's where you don't necessarily need to build the integration for them. So it would be per user. Each user would be able to do that. I think project managers and estimators would be an example of users, I think, who would definitely want something like that. Looking through any other questions, I don't see any right now. So what I'd like to do is open up the questions that I have based on the information that we've just gone over, so that you guys can see that. Let me see here. I'm gonna send this one out here. So the first one is really we've changed the scheduling. We provided you the new scheduling view. How many of you guys have actually chosen to utilize that, or how many of you are still using the old view? And maybe you guys aren't using a schedule at all. Christian, for instance, you're saying, what's the training on the scheduler? Maybe you're just kind of looking at the scheduling and thinking about using it, but you haven't, and that's perfectly fine too. But that's one thing. The next thing is regarding the mobile scheduling. You guys have asked for mobile scheduling. We want to know, what does that mean to you guys? Could we basically add the ability for a technician to, if he's out at a customer's house, to self-administer their own schedule and say, hey, I'm going to come back out Monday, and put that appointment on their schedule? Does that solve the majority of your issues, or is your goal really to say the dispatcher or the person who schedules needs to go to the mobile app and be able to do all of their work from the mobile app? Because they're not necessarily the same thing. One's pretty simple and easy to implement. The other one's a lot harder because of just the nature of the scope. If you have, let's say, 20 technicians you have to monitor from a mobile app, that becomes a very hard thing to fit inside of a mobile view and to do effectively. But it still could be done, but it takes a lot more work. If the only thing we need to do is assign myself to a job on Monday or Tuesday, and that's pretty much the extent of it, or maybe just assign an employee to a job, that's a lot easier. So definitely would want to see what that breakdown is. And the last question is pretty simple. Where do you think the map should go? Is it really geared towards the scheduling area, or is it the dashboard? It looks like most people are saying both. Also, if you have a suggestion or a thought of where you would think the map should go in addition to that, or outside of the options that were provided, let us know as well, because you guys have great ideas. You guys are the ones using the platform. You guys are the ones in the day-to-day. So definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts on that. And I will ask for anybody still using the current scheduling view, not the new scheduling view. I would like to know what's kind of holding you up, and maybe it's just you don't want to go that direction. That's not the type of scheduling you want to do. That's perfectly fine. There's a bunch of companies who don't want to have that type of top-down administrative burden, putting in start and end times for every appointment and whatnot. The whole reason we designed the scheduling file list view was that it was low overhead, super easy to assign and kind of fire and forget on that. But I would like to know if it's a technical issue and you do want to move, but you don't feel comfortable yet, or if you're not really planning on moving at all, where you guys are at with that. So if you wouldn't mind letting me know either here in the questions or in the, just email me afterwards. I'd like to hear your feedback on that. All right, so I'm going to close this. Hopefully most of you guys were able to go in and fill that out. Thank you guys for doing that. And then I have the question where we're going to go through customer satisfaction. So how likely are you to refer Xcelerate to a fellow Restoration One franchisee? We definitely strive for a 9 or 10. We would love to hear that you're extremely likely to do that. But if not, if you're going to say 8 or below, anything below at all, we'd love to hear what we could do to make it a 9 or a 10. We try to be responsive. We try to listen to all of your guys' feedback. So just let us know. Let us know. It doesn't matter. Matt, myself, Ember, we're all here to listen and find out what you guys are needing. And I'll leave that open as we wrap up here. See if there's any other questions. I don't see any other questions at the moment. Oh, here's one. We were waiting for the update for the calendar and scheduling. We will start using the calendar going forward. Okay. Yeah, we had to do quite a bit of stabilization on the calendar from the initial launch. So it's definitely a lot more stabilized, but we'd still love to get more feedback on how to make it better. And I know with that, with the time tracking where you're able to see when people were there, it might provide enough value for you guys to move over faster. So I'm just going to open it up. If there are any other thoughts, any other proposed things that you guys would be looking for, needing, maybe that we haven't brought up in the past, now's your opportunity to kind of bring it up. And some of you guys are just looking for some small fixes on certain bugs. We're definitely working on diligently knocking out as many of those as possible. We do have, with the corporate view, with the national accounts, we've been pretty hard at work trying to get all of that out and operational. So that may have slowed us down a little bit on some of the bug fixes. Definitely apologize for any slowdowns on that, but we're ramping it back up now to be able to turn those around very, very quickly. So hopefully you guys are seeing that come your way. If I would like to email outside this presentation, can I get your email? Yeah, so I'll put the email at the end of this. You'll see my email address. And so go ahead and use it to forward to somebody if that's what you're looking for. Larry, equipment inventory and tracking. Yes, that's definitely been something that's been on our roadmap. We've had conversations with a lot of equipment tracking partners. Brad Jeffries is also looking at some different equipment vendors as well. Some of the ones that we've looked at, Invisitag would be an example. There's also Kahi as an example that has been developing a lot of equipment tracking solutions. I don't think we're going to build it from scratch, but I think what we're going to do is make a very strategic partnership, either through Encircle or with a platform directly, so that you can get that equipment tracking inside of the system. All right, let me see here. So that pretty much, I think we're wrapping up towards the end of the half hour here. And as always, if you have more questions, feel free to ask. If you don't have time to do it now, you can always email me at the end. But one thing I did want to announce is the national accounts thing that we discussed at the beginning. We are dispatching jobs through beta right now to a select few Restoration One franchisees. If you're interested in being part of that and you're on Xcelerate already, or you just started on Xcelerate, let me or Jay know, and we'll get you into that because we'd like to get as much feedback as possible. Obviously, it's in beta, so you have to be a little bit more forgiving with some of the bugs that we're going to run into. But yeah, definitely would love to hear you guys' thoughts. The earlier we can get your feedback on how to make it better, the faster we'll be able to actually improve that. So that's really what I had. Any other questions? Let me look. I don't see any. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. And I thought my email address was here. I guess it's not. Give me 1 second. I'll put it right in here so you guys have it. Let's see here. All right, let's see. There we go. It doesn't look the best, but at least you have it. There it is. And Travis, Restoration One Ann Arbor would like to be part of National Accounts Beta. Excellent. I'll loop you in, and hopefully we'll get that set up in the next couple of days. But what I just showed you at the beginning of this is really what you're going to do when you get those new jobs from mobile or web. Go accept the job as soon as you can, and everything else should remain the same as your current process. Thank you. Thank you, Travis.